The lipstick stain on Harrison's collar was unmistakable. I stared at it, my heart pounding, as he stumbled through the front door, reeking of whiskey and cheap perfume. "Lydia, darling, you're still up?" Harrison slurred, his once charming smile now a crooked, guilty grin. I forced a smile, years of corporate negotiations coming in handy. "Just finishing some work, dear." "Long night?" He nodded, fumbling with his tie. "Client dinner. You know how it is." I did know. I'd been the one attending those dinners for the past year, while Harrison wallowed in self-pity after losing his job. But this was different. "Let me help you with that," I said, approaching him. As I reached for his tie, the scent of another woman's perfume assaulted my senses. I swallowed hard, fighting the urge to confront him then and there. "You're too good to me, Lydia," Harrison mumbled, his eyes heavy with alcohol and shame. I helped him to bed, my mind racing. Once he was snoring, I slipped back to the living room and poured myself a generous glass of wine. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother, Jane. "Everything okay, sweetie? You seemed off during our call earlier." I hesitated, then typed back, "Can we meet for lunch tomorrow? I need your advice." The next day, I met Mom at our favorite bistro. Her eyes widened as I recounted the previous night's events. "Oh, Lydia," she sighed, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "I'm so sorry. What are you going to do?" I took a deep breath. "I'm not sure yet. Part of me wants to confront him, but you're worried about pushing him further away," Mom finished, nodding knowingly. She'd been through this herself with my father years ago. "Exactly," I said, stirring my untouched salad. "I've been trying so hard to help him through this depression, but now I wonder if I've just been enabling him." Mom's eyes flashed with a mix of sympathy and determination. "Honey, you can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Harrison needs to take responsibility for his own happiness." As if on cue, my phone buzzed. It was Harrison. "Where are you? We need to talk." I showed Mom the text, my stomach churning. "I guess it's time to face the music." She squeezed my hand again. "Remember, you're strong, Lydia. Whatever happens, you'll get through this." I nodded, gathering my courage as I stood to leave. "Thanks, Mom. I'll call you later." The drive home felt both endless and far too short. As I pulled into the driveway, I spotted Harrison pacing on the front porch. He looked haggard, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. "Lydia," he called as I approached. "I need to talk to you about something important." My heart raced. Was he going to confess? Apologize? I steeled myself for whatever was coming. "What is it, Harrison?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "I've been thinking a lot about our future, about what we both need to be happy." I held my breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "I think," he hesitated, then plunged ahead. "I think you should quit your job." For a moment, I was sure I'd misheard him. "Excuse me?" Harrison nodded, warming to his topic. "Your career has always come first, Lydia. Maybe if you focused more on our marriage, on supporting me." I stared at him, incredulous. Here I was, worried about confronting him about his infidelity, and he had the audacity to suggest I give up my career? "Harrison," I said, my voice dangerously calm, "I think we need to have a very different conversation." His brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. The image of that lipstick stain seared into my mind. "Why don't we start with where you really were last night?" Harrison's face paled at my question, his eyes darting away from mine. "What are you talking about, Lydia? I told you I was at a client dinner." I crossed my arms, my patience wearing thin. "A client dinner that left lipstick on your collar? Come on, Harrison. I deserve the truth." He slumped against the porch railing, the fight draining out of him. I'm sorry, Lydia. It was a mistake. I've been feeling so lost, so worthless." "So you decided to cheat on me?" I spat, my anger finally boiling over. "That's your solution?" Harrison reached for me, but I stepped back. "Please, Lydia, let's talk about this. We can work it out. That's why I think you should quit your job. We need to focus on us." I laughed bitterly. "You want me to give up my career because you can't keep it in your pants? Unbelievable." "It's not like that," he protested. "I just think if we both focused on our marriage." "Our marriage?" I interrupted. "You mean the one you just betrayed? The one you're asking me to sacrifice everything for while you contribute nothing?" Harrison's face hardened. "Nothing? I've been trying, Lydia, but it's hard to feel like a man when my wife is the one bringing home the bacon." I stared at him, incredulous. "So this is about your ego, your fragile masculinity?" "It's about balance," he shouted, his composure cracking. "It's about feeling like I matter in this relationship." "You matter, Harrison," I said, my voice softening despite myself, but asking me to give up my career isn't the answer. I've supported you through this rough patch, but I can't be the only one making sacrifices. He ran his hands through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. Then what do you want from me, Lydia? What am I supposed to do? For starters, you could try being honest, I replied. Who is she, Harrison? He flinched, avoiding my gaze. It doesn't matter. It was a one-time thing, I swear. But something in his voice made me doubt that. I felt a chill run down my spine as a terrible thought occurred to me. It's not Margaret, is it? Harrison's sharp intake of breath was all the confirmation I needed. Margaret, my college roommate, the woman who'd been my bridesmaid. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. How long? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Harrison's shoulders sagged. A few months. Lydia, I'm so sorry. It just happened and then I couldn't stop. Couldn't stop? I echoed, my voice rising. You couldn't stop betraying me with one of my oldest friends? I was weak, he pleaded. I felt like a failure, and Margaret, she made me feel like a man again. I laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. And I suppose that's why you want me to quit my job? So you can feel like a big, strong man again? Harrison's face flushed with anger. You don't understand. You've always had it easy, Lydia. Your career, your success. You don't know what it's like to struggle. Easy? I repeated, my voice dangerously low. You think my life has been easy, Thurif? I've worked my ass off for everything I have, and I've spent the last year trying to support you to help you find your footing again. This is how you repay me? I'm sorry, Harrison said, his voice breaking. Please, Lydia, give me another chance. We can fix this. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time I saw a stranger. The man I'd married, the one I'd loved and supported, was gone. In his place was someone selfish, someone who'd rather tear me down than build himself up. No, Harrison, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. I don't think we can fix this, and I'm done trying. As I turned to walk away, I heard him call after me, desperation in his voice. But I didn't look back. I had some calls to make, starting with a divorce lawyer. I sat in my car outside Margaret's apartment, my hands shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. The past week had been a blur of anger, tears, and sleepless nights. Now I was here, ready to confront the woman who had betrayed me just as much as Harrison had. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car and marched up to her door. I knocked sharply, my heart pounding in my chest. The door swung open, and there she was. Margaret's eyes widened in shock. Lydia? What are you doing here? We need to talk, I said, pushing past her into the apartment. Margaret stammered. I don't understand. What's going on? I whirled to face her, my voice cold. Drop the act, Margaret. I know about you and Harrison. The color drained from her face. Lydia, I can explain. Save it, I snapped. I trusted you. You were my friend, and you stabbed me in the back. Tears welled up in Margaret's eyes. It wasn't supposed to happen. We were just talking one day, and then you decided to sleep with my husband? I finished for her, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Margaret sank onto her couch, her head in her hands. I'm so sorry, Lydia. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. Well, you did a bang-up job of it anyway. As I paced her living room, my eye caught something on her coffee table. It was a receipt for a weekend getaway, dated for next month. My blood boiled. Planning a little vacation with my husband? I asked, snatching up the paper. Margaret's head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic. No, it's not. I mean, we were just... Just what? I demanded. Planning to run off together while I was none the wiser? She stood, reaching for me. Lydia, please. It's not like that. We care about you. We just... Care about me? I interrupted, my voice rising. Is that why you've been sneaking around behind my back? Is that why Harrison asked me to quit my job so he could feel like a man again? Margaret's face paled. He what? I nodded grimly. Oh yes, he thinks if I give up my career, it'll fix everything. I guess he didn't share that little plan with you, did he? She sank back onto the couch, looking shell-shocked. I had no idea. Lydia, I swear I never wanted to come between you two. But you did, I said, my anger giving way to a deep, aching sadness. You both did. As I turned to leave, Margaret called out, Wait, what are you going to do? I paused at the door, not looking back. I'm going to do what I should have done a long time ago. I'm going to take care of myself. Back in my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd been avoiding. Dad, it's Lydia. I need your help. My father's voice was warm and concerned. Of course, sweetheart. What's wrong? I took a deep breath. I'm leaving Harrison. I need a good divorce lawyer. There was a moment of silence. Then, I'll make some calls. Are you okay? No, I admitted, feeling tears prick at my eyes. But I will be. As I drove home, my mind raced with plans. I'd need evidence of Harrison's infidelity, financial records, anything that could help my case. Part of me felt guilty for plotting against the man I'd once loved, but another part, a stronger part, knew this was necessary. I pulled into our driveway, steeling myself for what was to come. Harrison's car was there, and I could see him moving around in the living room. For a moment, I considered confronting him, laying all my cards on the table, but no, not yet. I needed to be smart about this. I needed to protect myself. As I walked into the house, Harrison looked up, his face a mixture of hope and apprehension. "Lydia, where have you been? Can we talk?" I forced a smile, hating how easy it was to slip into this facade. "Of course, dear. Let me just freshen up first." I headed upstairs, my heart pounding. The game was on and I intended to win. I'd been gathering evidence for weeks, carefully documenting Harrison's indiscretions and financial missteps. Every late-night phone call, every suspicious credit card charge, it was all there, neatly organized in a folder hidden in my office. I was ready to make my move, to confront Harrison and end this charade of a marriage once and for all. But life, as it often does, had other plans. "Lydia, we need to talk," Harrison said one evening, his voice uncharacteristically serious. "It's about your father." I froze, my heart skipping a beat. "What about my father?" Harrison took a deep breath, running his hand through his hair, a nervous habit I once found endearing. "I spoke with Charles today. I think I've found a way for us to get back on our feet." Alarm bells rang in my head. "What are you talking about, Harrison?" "Your father's retirement fund," he said, his eyes gleaming with an intensity I hadn't seen in months. "If we could just borrow a portion of it." "Borrow?" I interrupted, my voice sharp. "You want to take money from my father's retirement?" Harrison held up his hands placatingly. "Not take, Lydia. Invest. I've got a lead on a business opportunity that could turn everything around for us. But we need capital to get started." I stared at him, barely recognizing the man before me. "And you think the solution is to gamble with my father's hard-earned money?" "It's not gambling," Harrison insisted, his voice rising. "This is a sure thing, Lydia. We could finally get back to where we were before everything went wrong." I laughed bitterly. "Before you lost your job? Before you started sleeping with my best friend?" Harrison flinched as if I'd slapped him. "I thought we were moving past that. I thought you'd forgiven me." "Forgiven you?" I echoed, incredulous. "Harrison, I've been trying to understand, to support you. But this is too much." He reached for me, his eyes pleading. "Lydia, please, this could be our chance to start over, to be happy again." I stepped back, shaking my head. "Happy? You think taking advantage of my father will make us happy?" "It's not taking advantage," Harrison argued. "Charles would want to help us. He's always liked me." "Liked you enough to hand over his retirement savings?" I shot back. "I don't think so." Harrison's face hardened. "You don't know that. Maybe if you weren't so focused on your precious career, you'd see how important this is for our future." His words hit me like a physical blow. In that moment, I saw Harrison for who he truly was, a man so consumed by his own insecurities and greed that he'd sacrifice anything, anyone, to feel powerful again. "Our future?" I said quietly. "Harrison, I don't think we have a future." His eyes widened in panic. "What are you saying?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I knew I had to do. "I'm saying that I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending that everything's okay when it's so clearly not. Lydia, please," Harrison begged, reaching for me again. "We can work this out. We can—" "No," I interrupted, my voice firm. "We can't. And I won't let you drag my father into this mess." I turned away, my mind racing. I needed to warn my father, to protect him from Harrison's desperate schemes, and I needed to finalize my own plans that no longer included a future with the man I'd once loved. As I walked out of the room, leaving Harrison calling after me, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. The life I'd known was crumbling around me, but from the ashes I could see a new path forming, one that led to independence, self-respect, and maybe, just maybe, a chance at true happiness. I pulled out my phone, my fingers shaking slightly as I dialed. "Dad, it's Lydia. We need to talk. It's important." The manila envelope felt heavy in my hands as I walked into the living room. Harrison was there, slouched on the couch, flipping through channels with a vacant expression. He looked up as I entered, his eyes widening at the sight of the envelope. "Lydia? What's that?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "Harrison, we need to talk." He sat up straighter, a flicker of concern crossing his face. Is everything okay? No, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. It's not, and it hasn't been for a long time. I placed the envelope on the coffee table between us. Harrison stared at it, then back at me, confusion evident in his eyes. What is this? He asked, reaching for it. Divorce papers, I said, watching as the color drained from his face. Harrison's hand froze midair. What? Lydia, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life, I replied, sitting down across from him. I've given this a lot of thought, Harrison. Our marriage is over. He shook his head vehemently. No, we can work this out. I know I've made mistakes, but... Mistakes, I interrupted, feeling my carefully controlled emotions start to slip. You call cheating on me with my best friend a mistake? Trying to con my father out of his retirement savings a mistake? Harrison flinched at my words. I was desperate, Lydia. I didn't know what else to do. You could have been honest with me, I said, my voice cracking slightly. You could have worked on yourself instead of trying to tear me down. He leaned forward, his eyes pleading. I can change, Lydia. Give me another chance, please. For a moment, I felt my resolve waver, but then I remembered the lipstick on his collar, the secret phone calls, the way he'd tried to manipulate my father. My heart hardened. It's too late for that, Harrison, I said, pushing the envelope towards him. I want you to look these over and sign them. His face contorted with anger. Just like that? You're throwing away our marriage without even trying to fix it? I laughed bitterly. I've been trying to fix it for months, Harrison, but I can't do it alone, and I won't sacrifice myself for someone who doesn't respect me. Harrison's eyes narrowed. Is that what this is about? Your career? Your independence? It's about self-respect, I shot back. It's about not letting you or anyone else make me feel small. He stood up abruptly, pacing the room. You'll regret this, Lydia. You're making a huge mistake. The only mistake I made was not doing this sooner, I replied, standing my ground. Harrison whirled to face me, his expression dark. Fine, you want a divorce? You'll get one but don't think I'll make it easy for you. I felt a chill run down my spine at his words, but I refused to show fear. I'm prepared for that, Harrison. In fact, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small recorder, pressing play. Harrison's voice filled the room, detailing his affair with Margaret and his plans to use my father's money. His face paled as he listened. You recorded me? I nodded, my heart pounding but my voice steady. I did, and I have a lot more evidence. So if you're thinking of fighting dirty, remember that I'm ready for it. Harrison slumped back onto the couch, defeat written across his features. What do you want from me, Lydia? I want you to sign the papers, I said, pushing them towards him again. And I want alimony, not just from you but from Margaret, too. His head snapped up. Margaret, you can't be serious. Oh, I am, I replied, a grim smile on my face. She helped destroy our marriage. It's only fair she helps pay for the consequences. Harrison stared at me for a long moment, then slowly reached for the papers. As he began to read through them, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. This wasn't the end I had hoped for when we got married, but it was the beginning of something new. A life where I put myself first. And as I watched Harrison sign away our future together, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I was ready to face them head on. The courtroom felt suffocating as I sat, waiting for the judge to return with her decision. Months of legal battles, sleepless nights, and emotional turmoil had led to this moment. I glanced over at Harrison, his once familiar face now a mask of bitterness and resentment. He caught my eye and sneered, mouthing something I couldn't quite make out. My lawyer, Sarah, squeezed my arm reassuringly. We've got this, Lydia. The evidence is overwhelming. I nodded, trying to believe her words, but doubt gnawed at me. Harrison had fought dirty, throwing every accusation he could think of at me. He'd even tried to paint me as an unfit wife, claiming my career obsession had driven him to infidelity. The nerve of that man never ceased to amaze me. The bailiff's voice cut through my thoughts. All rise. As the judge took her seat, I felt my heart pounding in my chest. This was it, the moment that would define my future. In the matter of Lydia Thompson versus Harrison Thompson, the judge began, her voice steady and impartial. I have reviewed all the evidence presented by both parties. I held my breath, feeling the weight of her next words. It is the decision of this court to grant the divorce petition filed by Mrs. Thompson. A wave of relief washed over me, but I knew it wasn't over yet. Furthermore, the judge continued, given the evidence of Mr. Hittilinep Thompson's infidelity and financial misconduct, the court awards Mrs. Thompson alimony in the amount of As she named the figure, I heard Harrison's sharp intake of breath. It was more than we'd expected, more than he could easily afford. But the judge wasn't finished. Additionally, the court finds merit in Mrs. Thompson's claim against Margaret Winters for alienation of affection. Miss Winters is hereby ordered to pay damages in the amount of... This time, it was my turn to gasp. The amount was substantial, a clear message that actions have consequences. As the judge concluded the proceedings, I turned to Sarah, my eyes wide with disbelief. "Did that just happen?" she grinned, squeezing my hand. "It did. Congratulations, Lydia. It's over." But as we stood to leave, Harrison's voice cut through the courtroom chatter. "This isn't over, Lydia. You'll regret this, I swear." I turned to face him, surprised by the calmness in my voice. "No, Harrison, you're the one who'll regret your choices. I'm just moving on with my life." As we exited the courthouse, a flurry of reporters descended upon us. Questions flew from all directions, microphones thrust in my face. "Mrs. Thompson, how do you feel about the verdict? Do you have any comment on the alimony award? What would you say to other women in similar situations?" I hesitated, overwhelmed by the attention. But then I remembered all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, all the times I'd doubted my worth because of Harrison's actions. I straightened my shoulders and faced the cameras. "I feel vindicated," I said, my voice growing stronger with each word. "This verdict isn't just about money. It's about justice. It's about standing up for yourself when someone tries to tear you down." The reporters hung on every word, scribbling furiously in their notepads. "To any woman out there facing betrayal or manipulation," I continued, "I want you to know that you're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone dim your light or make you feel small. You deserve better." As the words left my mouth, I realized I wasn't just speaking to the cameras. I was speaking to myself, to the woman I'd been at the start of this ordeal. Later that evening, as I sat in my quiet apartment, the reality of the day's events began to sink in. I was divorced. I was free. But as I looked around at the remnants of my married life, I felt a strange emptiness. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Proud of you, sweetheart. This is just the beginning." I smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope. Yes, it was the beginning. But of what, I wasn't quite sure. As I drifted off to sleep, one thought echoed in my mind. Whatever comes next, I'm ready for it. The shrill ring of my phone jolted me awake. Bleary-eyed, I fumbled for it, my heart racing when I saw Sarah's name on the screen. "Lydia, we have a problem." My lawyer's voice was tense. Harrison's filed a motion to reopen the case. I sat bolt upright, sleep forgotten. "What? On what grounds?" "He's claiming you deceived the court about your father's true wealth. Says you have access to funds you didn't disclose." My mind reeled. How could Harrison possibly know about... No, it couldn't be. "Lydia, are you there?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, I'm here. Sarah, this is bad. Really bad." "Talk to me, Lydia. What's going on?" I took a deep breath, weighing my options. The truth could jeopardize everything, but lying to my lawyer would be even worse. My father, he has an offshore account. It's not exactly legal. Harrison must have found out somehow. Sarah's sharp intake of breath told me everything I needed to know. "Lydia, why didn't you tell me about this before?" "I didn't think it mattered. It's not my money, and I've never touched it." "It matters now," Sarah said grimly. "We need to meet. My office, 1 hour." The next few days were a whirlwind of legal meetings and sleepless nights. Harrison's lawyers were pushing hard, demanding a full financial audit. If they succeeded, it wouldn't just be my divorce settlement at stake. My father could face serious legal consequences. As I sat in the courthouse waiting room, I felt the walls closing in. My mother squeezed my hand reassuringly, but I could see the worry in her eyes. "It'll be okay, sweetheart," she murmured. "Your father's lawyer is the best in the business." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Just then the doors burst open, and Harrison strode in, flanked by his legal team. Our eyes met, and I was shocked by the malice I saw there. "Enjoying your ill-gotten gains, Lydia?" he sneered. "Not for much longer." Before I could respond, Sarah appeared, ushering us into the courtroom. As we took our seats, I caught sight of my father, his face ashen. The judge called the session to order, and Harrison's lawyer launched into his argument. With each word, I felt my carefully constructed world crumbling around me. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Mrs. Genova Thompson deliberately misled this court about her family's financial status. We believe she has access to substantial undisclosed funds, which should be considered in the divorce settlement." The judge turned to Sarah. "Counselor, how do you respond to these allegations?" Sarah stood, her voice steady. "Your Honor, these claims are baseless. My client has been fully transparent about her finances. Mr. Thompson is simply attempting to retaliate against the court's previous ruling. As the arguments flew back and forth, I found myself zoning out, my mind racing. How had Harrison found out? Who could have told him? Suddenly, a commotion at the back of the courtroom snapped me back to reality. I turned to see Margaret being escorted in by a bailiff. "Your Honor," Harrison's lawyer said smugly, "we'd like to call a surprise witness." My heart sank as Margaret took the stand. She looked nervous, her eyes darting between Harrison and me. "Miss Winters," Harrison's lawyer began, "can you tell the court what you know about Charles Thompson's offshore accounts?" Margaret hesitated, her gaze locking with mine. In that moment, I saw a flicker of remorse in her eyes. I can't do this," she said suddenly. "I'm sorry, Harrison. I won't lie for you." The courtroom erupted in chaos. Harrison leapt to his feet, shouting accusations. His lawyer tried desperately to regain control of the situation. Amidst the uproar, the judge's gavel came down hard. "Order! I will have order in this court." As silence fell, the judge fixed Harrison with a steely glare. "Mr. Thompson, attempting to coerce false testimony is a serious offense. This court takes a very dim view of such actions." I held my breath, hardly daring to hope. "Motion to reopen the case denied," the judge declared. "Furthermore, Mr. Thompson, you will be held in contempt of court. Bailiff, take him into custody." As Harrison was led away, protesting loudly, I slumped in my seat, overwhelmed by relief and exhaustion. Sarah leaned over, a small smile on her face. "It's over, Lydia. Really over this time." I nodded, tears pricking at my eyes. But as I watched Harrison disappear through the courtroom doors, I couldn't help but wonder, at what cost had this victory come? And where did I go from here? 6 months after the courtroom drama, I found myself in a chic new restaurant, celebrating my recent promotion. The air buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, a stark contrast to the tense silence that had dominated my life for so long. "To new beginnings," my mother toasted, her eyes twinkling with pride. As I raised my glass, a familiar figure caught my eye. There, at a corner table, was Harrison. Our eyes met, and for a moment time seemed to stand still. He looked different. Gone was the bitter, angry man from the courtroom. This Harrison seemed humbler, more grounded. He was dressed in a waiter's uniform, efficiently clearing tables and chatting amiably with customers. "Lydia, are you okay?" My mother's voice snapped me back to reality. I nodded, unable to tear my eyes away from Harrison. I need a moment." Before I could second-guess myself, I was walking towards him. He saw me approaching and straightened up, a mix of emotions playing across his face. "Lydia," he said, his voice softer than I remembered. I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I replied, surprised by the calmness in my voice. "You're working here?" He nodded, a hint of pride in his eyes. "Started a few months ago. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. I'm trying to turn things around." I felt a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying lift from my shoulders. "I'm glad to hear that, Harrison. Really." An awkward silence fell between us, years of hurt and betrayal hanging in the air. Finally, Harrison spoke. "Lydia, I owe you an apology. For everything. I was so caught up in my own insecurities that I lost sight of what really mattered. I'm sorry for hurting you, for betraying your trust. You deserved better." His words hit me like a tidal wave, washing away the last remnants of anger and resentment I'd been holding on to. "Thank you, Harrison. That means a lot." As we stood there, I realized something profound. The man I'd once loved, the man I'd fought so hard against, was no longer the center of my world. He was just a person, flawed and human, trying to find his way just like the rest of us. "I should get back to my table," I said, gesturing towards my mother. "Take care of yourself, Harrison." He nodded, a small smile on his face. "You too, Lydia. And congratulations on the promotion. I saw it in the paper. You always were destined for great things." As I walked back to my table, I felt lighter than I had in years. My mother looked at me quizzically. "Everything okay?" I smiled, truly smiled, for what felt like the first time in forever. "Yeah, Mom, everything's perfect." That night, as I stood on my balcony looking out over the city, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The betrayal, the pain, the fight for justice, it had all shaped me, made me stronger. I thought about Harrison, working to rebuild his life, about Margaret, who'd found the courage to tell the truth in the end, about my parents who'd stood by me through it all. And I thought about myself. The Lydia who'd started this journey would never have believed she could survive such betrayal, let alone thrive in its aftermath. But here I was, stronger and more self-assured than ever. As I gazed at the twinkling city lights, I made a decision. I didn't need a man to complete me. I didn't need to rush into another relationship to prove my worth. What I needed was to continue growing, learning, and loving myself. The future stretched out before me, full of possibilities. There would be challenges, of course, but I was ready for them. I'd weathered the storm of betrayal and come out stronger on the other side. With a contented sigh, I raised my glass to the night sky. To new beginnings, I whispered, echoing my mother's earlier toast, and to the journey ahead. As I turned to go back inside, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The chapter of my life with Harrison was finally, truly closed. But my story? It was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would lead.